Bill Gross. And what do you do when in a competitive market with rates going up, you want to save money on your mortgage? Well, one way is make sure your credit is as clean as possible. Sometimes it's some deferred maintenance. You run your credit report and discover the score is not as high as it should be. Maybe there's a dispute you had that never got fixed by the other party and should be, or a variety of other reasons. And that's why you need a professional to help you clean up your credit. Really excited here to have a professional who I know from my key team member, Melissa, refer me to Shiva, whose tier one credit company cleans up credit. And I had a nice chat with him. I want to introduce him to you guys. So Shiva, say hi to my audience.
Hey, Bill, how's it going? Thanks for having me on. Good to see everyone.
Fantastic. Hey, I like the background. There are all kinds of fancy looking licenses and stuff. Where are you located?
So I'm located in the LA area. Grew up out here, lived in, went to school, went to college and law school locally, and then lived in New York City. That's where I started my legal career, and then moved back here to, I guess, bring the message of better credit to Los Angeles.
Very nice. Where you go to high school?
West Torrance. So I grew up in Torrance, and then I ended up
West
to
High.
college in Los. Yeah, West High. And
West
then
High for the
ended up
Torrance residents, Southie residents.
Yeah, so grew up over there, and then I went to college and law school at UCLA. So yeah.
Whoa, what?
I know. I see.
Okay, well, okay. It's been a pleasure.
I have to
That's
work
okay.
it
They
in
taught
there.
us at US. They taught us at USC that don't make fun of UCLA grads because someday they'll be working for you. So I always want to be respectful of UCLA grads. So,
Well, I'm glad.
so
I'm glad you got one in. I noticed you were a Trojan, so I was waiting for it. I had to say it.
exactly, exactly. I have to give it to you. You know that's how it goes. So let's talk about credit. So,
Please.
how did you end up in the credit business? When you were a kid, you played GI Joes, and your GI Joe was a credit cleanup guy, or how did you get into the business? What was the interest?
I actually created my own mess bill, and I had to clean it up. So I came out of law school in 2010, which is, as you remember, this was on the heels of the great financial crash and crisis and everything that happened with the mortgage industry and Wall Street and the rest. And as a result, legal jobs, particularly those that are non-litigation, they often tend to track where the economy is and all of that, right? So a lot of law firm jobs and jobs for people coming out of school were lost. As a result, it was harder to get employment, which means harder to pay your student loans, which at the time I was there, what total cost was about 160,000. Now I think it's well north of 200, maybe mid 200s. So long story short, wasn't fully aware of the options that I had in terms of deferring payments. And honestly, there was less flexibility 12 years ago than now. So I ended up having a bunch of lates on my student loans. And then later, once I, got a job and had things moving along and situated, noticed that my credit was still damaged. And all of that prompted me to start digging into the laws around credit and all of that. And long story short, having a litigation background and then learning how the Fair Credit Reporting Act works and the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act, started out and eventually got into litigating those cases. So I've sued at Wells Fargo, Experian, Equifax, a lot of these companies. And from there, I came to realize that, okay, yes, you can sue them when there's a serious error on the credit, but so many folks, perhaps some in your audience or some of your colleagues deal with, they have problems with their credit, but it's not something we can sue over. And then, so how do we help them? And that's how I end up moving into credit repair and sort of learning and formulating some of the tactics that we use today to address negative credit when it's not erroneous enough to rise to the level of a lawsuit, but someone still needs it cleared so they can buy a home or fund their business.
Now, I get approached like a lot of real estate agents and mortgage companies do. I get approached, regularly by companies, but it seems like they're more selling me some sort of a service or a membership or some sort of a process, and you never talk to anybody who does any of the actual credit work. In your case, I'm sure you'll do all of it. You must have staff, but you oversee it. Sounds like the actual credit work. Tell me a little bit about what the practice of this looks like for you.
Sure. So yeah, as you touched upon, I'm the head attorney. So what that, co-founder of the company, along with Tony Budry, my awesome business partner, and I'm the head attorney. So what that means is we have a team of legal assistants and paralegals who work under me, who we have a system, if you will, in place to address negative credit items, to review credit reports, certain criteria we look for. And one part of it is cleaning up credit, where we say, okay, this is how this item can be addressed or not addressed. We're very realistic for reasons I'll get to in a minute, but also, hey, here's what you can do to build credit. And sometimes I get people who just don't have much credit and we just tell them how to build it. Other times clean up. But basically what our structure involves, we first look for violations of the law. That's things we can sue on, because in that case we can recover money for the client, which in some cases can be quite a bit, help them with their down payment or whatever. If we don't have that, then we have a lot of tactics: demand letters, arbitration, small claims filings, federal court, filling out papers, a lot of different ways we can tackle it. And it really goes to what the goal of the client is and the easiest way to get there. We're paid per deletion we achieve. So our incentive is to get the item permanently removed as fast as we can. But with that said, we also want to make sure the clients are on the same page with us, because I know there's a lot of misinformation and sort of false promises about credit repair. So we tell everyone this can be at the minimum a 3 to 4 month process, at the longer end an 8 to 9 month process. And so always kind of suggest to folks, if you really have a lot of damage on your credit, it didn't go bad overnight. It will take time, but you'll get there.
Right. Well, my best friends in the mortgage industry years ago had a process. Whenever anybody came in to get pre-approved, they never declined anybody. They gave them a plan in writing where they could buy a house within 2 years. If they had to make more money, that was part of the plan. If they had to save some money or cut their expenses, that was the plan. If it was clean up credit, they had 2 years to do that. But they had a document called "Don't Give Up," and that was their 2-year plan to get from where they were. And he said there was nobody who followed the plan who couldn't buy a house within 2 years. And he'd have people come back to him 2 years later saying, "Hey, you said if I did this, I could get a house. I did all this," right? So really, we're talking about, for some people, the hard work is the income. For some people, saving money. And for some people, the work is planning ahead, but getting your credit cleaned up and maybe fixing things that you neglected or didn't know about or are responsible for, but now it's time to get them cleaned up.
Exactly. And I love that, by the way. One thing I'll share that I think is very relevant to, I guess, the loan officers that you work with or in the audience in general is, we work with quite a few loan officers and realtors, but more the loan officers, because that's where the credit really first becomes an issue, is when they're sent for pre-approval. But I can tell you this, Bill, quite a bit of our clientele comes directly to us off the internet or referrals from former clients. And I've heard from many of them feedback that they were denied for a mortgage and they got the notice that they were being denied and the loan officer told them. But quite a few loan officers, I don't want to say most, because we have so many who send people to us or another company, but quite a few of them would basically lose any interest in the client the moment they saw the credit was damaged. And particularly true when the market is hot and there's a lot of deals available. And it sticks in people's head that getting that door slammed in their face. And the flip side of that coin is, I've seen loan officers who really cultivated every client who had bad credit and said, hey, whether it's my firm or it's another one or their own plan, I'm going to help improve your score. And in the long run, over 2 or 3 years, they may be closing more deals, because in certain parts of the country, you're going to have anywhere from 20 to 50% of your leads having bad credit. And the more of them that you can get to a better place, that's the more deals you have, because people remember. We've noticed, I have loan officers ask me this question: how likely do you think a client is to come back to me? And we always say, well, look, obviously it depends on your rate and your programs. That's true. But people tend to remember that, hey, this person helped me out. They pointed me to someone who could help me, whoever that is. And I think it can pay off a lot for the lenders and the realtors in the long run too.
Well, this is a regular market. The last couple of years, a monkey could sell a loan and rates are going down so quickly. Now you have to have relationships and systems and follow up. And in particular, stay in touch with them. As real estate agents, we probably do a better job staying in touch with clients than the loan officers do. But I got to tell you, loan officers, I've closed a lot of houses in the last 5 years. There's maybe one who stays in touch with me, one. And it's like, are you crazy? Don't you know I refer people out all the time, but they're so used to getting a deal and getting paid on the deal. That was true for the last 5-10 years.
Yeah.
That's not going to be true for a while. Unless the rates drop again, that's not going to be true. You got to develop relationships. You have to help people create value for them. And that's why I'm anxious to talk to you and appreciate your time, because we want to help people. And to your point, I've had people say, well, don't most people you help with your channel go to other real estate agents and say, yeah, if I help 100 people, 94 might go to somebody else, but you know what? 6 come to me. That's plenty.
Yeah.
Like, I only need so much.
Yeah.
So I'm glad to share with any other real estate agent, as long as we help the customer who otherwise can't get a house, get one. So let's talk about the business model. if somebody was to go to your website or call your toll-free number, which I'm going to put at the end here, if they once they reach out to you, what's the process look like? What's it going to cost them? And what's the process look like?
Sure. So the initial portion of it, Bill, is completely free, which is they contact us on the website and they can click anywhere and book an appointment. They'll talk to one of the legal assistants who will first just gather some information from them in terms of what are their credit issues, if they're aware. Very often people don't know, they may not have been checking it. If they do know, then we can give them some advice on it, find out what their goal is, their time frame to achieve it. And then from there, we look at their credit report. We can have them order it for $1 through us, or if they came from a loan officer and they give that loan officer permission, they can share it and we can look at that. And then we put together a plan. And the way that we operate is we charge per item deleted. So what we do is we review the credit report and we actually make every client a video. I use an app similar to Loom, which you might be familiar with. I use an app called Vidyard, record a video where we review their credit report on the screen and we send it to them as a text message and an email. They can review it on their own time. And we just go through the whole report, explain everything that needs to be done, and they can then make a decision. And it's $50 per account, per credit bureau after it's deleted. That's for collections, late payments, charge-offs, all that. For repossessions, it's $100 per account, per credit bureau. And then our $397, our setup fee, is covers our power of attorney and all of our costs associated with getting them started. If we cannot remove a single thing from the credit report, it's refunded in full. But because of this pay per removal strategy, I think it really aligns us with the client, because obviously we want to get things done sooner for them, both because they're happy and because that's our source of revenue, right? If you can generate the same amount of money in a shorter time through helping someone, your business is better off. But I think that also aligns us to be very realistic. I do get people who I think their goal of buying a home is achievable, but the load of debt is so high because maybe they went through a divorce or their business failed or a medical issue. They may have 6 figures worth of credit card debt. We will give people the honest advice. Hey, if you have the money, settle a lot of these, or maybe file bankruptcy and rebuild. You can buy in 3 years. So it's really about giving transparent advice. I mean, it's very common for me to get people who just don't use much credit. And so, their score is not super high because there's not a lot of credit. We don't do credit repair. We just tell them, hey, open a secured credit card, open a credit builder loan, and go on your way. And I think sometimes loan officers are surprised. They're like, wait, you didn't charge them to tell them? And I'm like, no. The person who really needs us to clean it up will do that. But the goal is for every client to point them in the right direction and hopefully to, really set them on the right path. Yeah. Because a big part of it is building credit, not just cleaning it up.
So when they go to the website, they set an appointment, they get an initial consult. If they want to move forward, they deposit $377. And then
they would first sign our contract and our power of attorney, which outlines all the fees. The power of attorney is limited. It's only for the purpose of contacting the credit agencies and the collection agencies and the creditors, nothing else. But what it does is a traditional credit repair firm will send letters and say, hi, this is Joe. I'm disputing this item on my credit. Ours will say, hi, this is Shiva. I represent Joe, and our law office represents Joe, and we're seeking XYZ information. And I happen to know, because I've sued many of these collection agencies and credit bureaus, that our name is one they recognize. So there may be situations where something just gets deleted quickly because they know us and we've had prior history. And so that's that. So yeah, we work on that. And they pay the $377 after signing up. And every 45 days that they're in the program, we send them a video and a write-up where we go over the report, go over what's been removed, what we're still working on. And of course, they can reach out anytime. I mean, we stay in touch by text message, email, or phone. So a lot of people like just texting our customer support folks and asking for updates. But regardless of whether they text or not, they're getting email, they're getting a personalized update every 45 days, and they're getting credit education by email every couple of days. So really make it a point to stay in touch and kind of, be attached.
Okay, so where are we? Okay, so look, I think the thing that really intrigued me about your system was this is what you do. You don't do anything else. You're not selling a plan. You're not selling a membership fee. You're looking at a credit report. You're looking at somebody's situation and you're advising them like a doctor, but you're a lawyer, as to what you can do or can't do, and they're going to pay per item to get things removed.
That's correct.
And the other thing I saw was you have a guarantee. Explain how that works.
Yeah. So the guarantee bill basically means we cannot, I mean, either ethically or more, or just as importantly, legally, we cannot promise to remove any negative item. Even if it were illegal or in violation of the law, I mean, we can't predict the outcome of litigation or anything else, right? As you know. But what we can say is that you're not going to pay us if we don't get you results. And what that means is if we could not remove anything for you, then that setup fee is refunded. And as we mentioned, you don't pay the deletion fees, right? Only when it's deleted. So
Got it.
obviously we while we can't guarantee a score improvement, what we can guarantee is that you're going to see your score improve as a result of the negative items being cleared up. Um, or you're not going to pay us anything. So I think that keeps us honest, both in terms of making sure that we're implementing the right strategy, but also just being realistic. Because I think one thing that's endemic in the credit industry, and unfortunately with a lot of attorneys in general, I hate to say it, but is sometimes overselling or giving false hope of what can be done. It's not just attorneys, it's a lot of
Yeah.
professions. I'm
Yeah.
a lawyer, so I see
Yeah.
it in our industry. And I really try to avoid that. I mean, if you go to our, if you Google us, and obviously it's different for folks in Los Angeles, but if anybody goes on our Google business or sees our reviews, we've earned, I think at this point, over 85 reviews, almost all of them 5 stars, and the ones that are
Nice.
not are 4 stars. And I think that's really just been a product of, focusing on satisfying people. And if for some reason someone was not happy, we really want to make an effort to understand why. And ultimately, to me, the biggest compliment is that, just like I think for you or anyone in our businesses, that somebody trusts us enough to refer a friend or a relative, or in the case of a realtor, a loan officer, a client, because I know the work that goes into getting that client, and we take that very seriously. And one thing I did want to add for that component of your audience, the realtors and the loan officers, when someone is referred to us, Bill, by the lending partner or the realtor, less commonly, we put it in our contract and we explain it clearly to the client that because this person referred you, we're not saying that you're obligated to go back to them, but because they took the effort to refer you and they are trying to help you in this capacity, the updates that we share with you regarding your credit every 45 days will be sent to that realtor or loan officer, assuming that they're interested in receiving them, so that they can also be aware of where the process is going. And that's very transparently disclosed. And if someone didn't want to do it, we'll say, hey, thank you, but we can't take you as a client, because we want to be respectful of whoever referred them to us to help them meet their goal too. So we really try to bring about alignment that way as well.
Well, and I think also getting a team of people working together, I think that's the key differentiator going forward, at least in my business. Is it's one thing to have good credit guides, another thing to have a lender, another thing to have a realtor. When the three work together, that's when the magic really happens. And like I said, you came to me referred by a good friend of mine, Melissa. We spoke. I right away figured out I'm not talking to a credit service. I'm talking to an attorney. I think that already holds you to a higher standard than certainly credit bureaus. I don't know what that says, but it's higher than the competition. So I'm impressed. So I'm promising to send my next client to get started. Full transparency, we haven't worked together, but my team member Melissa has and speaks real highly of you. So if I have a client who's interested in moving forward with you and they want to get the consultation, what would the next step be?
Sure. Easiest way to do it is one of two ways. Visit tier1credit.com and you can schedule, without getting on the phone or really doing anything, just schedule it. And we're very flexible in terms of appointment times, as you'll see. Or call the toll-free number 844-684-3766. It's 24 hours. So, if you work late or are located, wherever and need that, then during business hours, we'll contact you. And yeah, ultimately, and if you were, the one thing I would say is if someone was, if you're a loan officer or realtor, of course, for you, Bill, or anyone else of your colleagues who's watching, you're also welcome to, shoot our office a note or get in touch with me and just let us know, hey, so-and-so is coming your way, or ask them to use your name. As I mentioned, whenever it does come from a loan partner, we do like to keep that person updated. Obviously, we need to know it came from them to do that. So just have them use your name or let us know, and we'll make every effort to keep you updated as well if you're a loan officer or a realtor, or for yourself, of course, watching it.
Fantastic. Shiva, look, I really appreciate your time. I know you're busy and I appreciate what you do and look forward to working with you going forward.
Hey, likewise, Bill. Thanks again. Much appreciated.
Thanks so much.